Well, I noticed a lot of new faces this evening, and I'm so glad you all came. And I want you to know that this is a safe place to share. So if you want to tell us your story, there'll be no judgment.
Hi, my name's Charlie, and as you know, I have a problem. I'm addicted to cars. I have done it again. I had a chance to get back into the muscle car game, which seems like a departure when you look at the rest of this channel as far as the cars that I've owned, because you've seen a lot of Mercedes and Volvos and Cadillac and just random, really cool early 2000s, late 90s cars, which I still love and I still will always mess with. But I love muscle cars. I've always loved muscle cars. I've had muscle cars in the past. Nothing quite as nice as the one I've got now, but as far as condition. But Mustangs have always been a huge part of my life. That was the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 cars I had with variations or different years of Mustangs. And so for years, all my friends and family just knew me as the Mustang guy, and they kind of probably thought that's all I would ever have. I eventually did diversify into some other things, Broncos and other cars, and then recently really fell in love with Mercedes. But when I had the chance to get back into the muscle car game, and with such a nice example and a unique car, I couldn't pass it up. So I guess it's just time to introduce you all to my new baby. There it is, 1972 Mercury Cougar. It's the base model. In pretty stellar condition, if I do say so myself, although clearly not perfect. There's some things that do need to be addressed, but fairly nice example of this car. Very excited. Mercury Cougar was sold by the Mercury division of Ford from 1967 to 1997, where it was discontinued for a couple years and then brought back from 1999 to 2002 as a very different car, but it was still the Mercury Cougar. First generation, 1967. It was meant to be kind of like the high-class alternative to the Mustang. For Mustang owners, obviously Mustang was very popular at this point already, but for Mustang owners who maybe wanted a little more bang for their buck, a little nicer. Cougar touted that they were more of a European inspired styling. When the Cougar came out, it was about $284 base price, more than the equivalent Mustang of the time. So Ford actually projected that they would sell 85,000 Cougars the first year, and they ended up selling almost twice as many, 150,000 of those things. So they are really popular. And actually in 1967, it won Car of the Year for Motor Trend, Motor Trend's Car of the Year. And that's actually the only Mercury to have ever gotten that award. Now the second generation, technically, if you look at most sources online, this is a second generation. However, the Cougar faithful, who I definitely want to keep happy because they're now my counterparts and I'm going to learn a lot from them. So they like to say that this is the third generation. So actually the second generation was 1969 to 1970, where they did a slight redesign where they stopped the straight body lines and they transitioned towards what they call a Coke bottle styling, which was basically like a sweeping body crease that sloped down from the hood line to the rear wheels. Very cool looking, very different, and it added a whole other dimension to the looks of the car. And like I said, where Wikipedia and some of the other sources don't necessarily call that its own generation, the Cougar faithful definitely do call that the second gen. So that was the main basic difference. There was also a difference in the grille. I think they went to like a horizontal slats on the front grille from the vertical. They kind of switched back and forth between that a couple times until they got to this one. Also, a convertible option was added to the fleet, which was very popular. Also, I want to mention that during that second generation, a really cool special edition package was offered. It was this French fashion designer, Pauline Treguier, I'm sure I'm saying that incorrectly, but she was a famous designer at the time. She developed this trim package that had a houndtooth pattern vinyl roof and matching upholstery. It came in, I think, brown or white as far as the houndstooth pattern, but I think it might have been on several different color cars. Super crazy looking, super cool. I really like it. I think it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I totally have it. I'm not gonna do it to this one. I wouldn't put it on something, but if I had one, I would definitely rock it. It was very, very unique. Also in 1969, Cougar came out with the Eliminator, which was basically the equivalent of a Boss 302 Mustang. So it was like their high performance edition. So that brings us to the third generation, which is this car right here. I mean, this pretty much followed what Mustang was doing. The Mustangs were getting bigger, and they just followed it because they stayed on the same platform. But Cougar was definitely intentionally shifting away from the pony car feel and kind of going more towards like a personal luxury coupe and really playing into the Euro styling as far as the options that they were offering. Ford in general, I think, was more aiming towards the GM A-body coupes. So like a Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme was sort of in the crosshairs when they developed this Cougar. In 71, so the first year of this generation, they had the 351 Cleveland, which came in a 2-barrel V8 or a 4-barrel V8. And then they also had the 429 Cobra Jet V8, which was actually dropped for 1972, but they came out with another 351 Cobra Jet. So there was 3 iterations of that 351 Cleveland as options for this car. They pretty much range from about 240 horsepower to 266 horsepower up to the Cobra Jet. Bumper was changed to accommodate regulations that were getting more stringent. They also went to this grill where, like I said before, they were going between horizontal and vertical slats on the grill, and this one they incorporated both, which is kind of cool. I think this is probably what's gonna make it or break it for most people. If you don't like this grill, or if it's too busy for you, then you're really not gonna like this car. But if you can appreciate that, I mean, compared to a Mach 1 Mustang or the equivalent Mustangs at the time, they were way more simplified. This is way more ornate. So you maybe got it to some, but I guess one man's trash is another man's treasure. After this, they went to the 4th generation, and that's when they left the Mustang platform altogether. Mustangs went to a Mustang 2, which was a compact, and Cougar started sharing a platform with the Gran Torino and the Mercury Montego, and they went toward a more larger car, luxury class, more in competition with like a Thunderbird than anything else. So this was the last kind of sporty muscle car kind of vibe that the Cougar had for quite some time. So besides the upgraded wheels and tires, it's been lowered. It hasn't been lowered the right way, I don't think, but it was lowered. And a lot of new parts put onto this car before I got it. So somebody definitely put some money into it. The engine was upgraded to an Edelbrock 4-barrel carburetor from a 2-barrel. It came with long tube headers, which were an absolute disaster. I'm gonna put a picture here of what it looked like when I got it. There was about an inch of clearance underneath the headers to where they met the exhaust. It was ridiculous, it was undrivable. So I went ahead and ordered from Summit Racing some Sanderson shorties. I think they're block hugger headers, and that seemed to fix the problem quite a bit. It's still not a ton of clearance because the car's lowered, but it's drivable for sure. It runs like a top 351 Cleveland, sounds like a beast. It's got Flowmaster exhausts, so that's all been upgraded. And then I would say, as far as what else needs to be done, there's a lot of wiring that needs to be done on the inside of the car. The interior, I don't think really anything. There's no lights, there's no dash panel lights or anything. That all needs to be done. And then it was whacked here. It was bumped. You can see how the bumper comes in right here. So it was whacked right there, and you got a little bit of a issue right there, and that caused some of this Bondo work, which the car's not really rusty, so that's not too big of a problem. But there's that, and then there's the trunk. It was also whacked at some point from the back, which is kind of tough to see, but if I show the top view, you can see it's definitely concave. It was probably hit directly in the middle, and the whole thing needs to be pulled out, and then this rear bumper, either need to get another one, or I need to see if I can get somebody to bend it back into shape. But it's off about an inch, and you can tell because the trunk, you can tell right there, the trunk doesn't close very well. So that's first up on the list. And then the paint. The paint looks so good from the sides and stuff, but on the trunk, I don't know if you can really see it now, but there's some fading spots for sure, some oxidization or oxidation. There was really bad on the hood, but we managed to get a lot of that on one pass already. So we'll be working on that coming up. Another good look at the hood. But the interior was all done, redone I should say, in pretty good condition in here. And it runs real well. Everything feels good in the car. Somebody definitely cared for it. It's got this dash pad because the dash is toast. Might get a different dash pad, or I don't know, do something with that, but that's not too big of a deal. All new carpeting. It's just mainly the paint and the two dings. You can definitely kind of see in the sunshine some of the paint issues, but I think it can be brought back really, really nice. I mean, shoot, just as it is, it's pretty darn nice. I got no complaints. Just want to get this trunk situated. So yeah, that's my 72 Mercury Cougar. I love it. Obviously, Mercury Cougars have always been there. As far as being a Mustang fan, they've always just been kind of like a side note to Mustang. But I've really done more research and seen a lot of videos since getting this car, because I kind of always dive in head first into whatever new toys I have. And I am just so impressed and so, I don't know, I'm in love with what Mercury did with the Cougar. It's not, I just really honestly always have thought of it as just a rebadged Mustang, but it wasn't. I mean, it was on the platform. It was definitely reminiscent. It's not night and day for sure, and that's probably why I love them, because I love Mustangs. But it was its own thing. It had its own personality, definitely, and it's a lot of fun. I'll always love Mustang. I still love Mustangs, but it's interesting to have something that maybe not everybody, or maybe not as many people have, as say a Mustang. So falling in love with the Cougar brand. I hope to feature this car in a lot more videos. I'll do some drive-bys. I can't really show you how it sounds right now because I don't have anybody to rev the engine for me, but the exhaust sounds fantastic. This is a beast. This big 351 Cleveland, and all the exhaust work and the headers and everything make it sound amazing. So that's all the good news. The bad news that it's just a fact of life that, you know, I don't have a ton of money and I don't have a ton of space living where I live. And in order to accommodate a new toy, I'm afraid I had to let go of an old toy. I let go of the Mercedes SL, my 93 SL 500. That was a bummer. I hate to see it go, but it went to a really good guy. I'm still in touch with him, and he's enjoying it. He's retired, and he's been a muscle car guy forever, and he's trying something new just like I did, and I think he's gonna fall in love with that car just like I did. You all know how nice those are. It probably won't be, it definitely isn't gonna be my last Mercedes, because I can tell you I want another 300 coupe, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see us with another SL or something of the likes, because my wife really likes it. So I think she's gonna like this too. She's a little afraid of it now. It's intimidating. It sounds like a monster, but it handles nice. It's drive. It's got a kind of a cushy drive. Once I upgrade, the springs definitely need some work. So some of you probably noticed that it's sitting a little strangely. They actually took the stock springs in the front, which are pretty worn, and they just cut a coil or two out of them to get the lowered stance, and the stance looks fantastic, but it will bottom out way too easy. So I'm gonna put some better springs on it, try to keep the lowered stance, but do it the right way. Lots of work needs to be done on this. I'm gonna try to do as much of it as I can. Already spent a small fortune on fixing the header situation, but I had to do that because it could not be driven the way it was. Anyways, sorry to some of you who are big Mercedes fans. Don't give up on the channel. We're gonna be doing more Mercedes, obviously, with what Papa and I do. Mercedes is a big part of that. So once this Cadillac sells, which if you know anybody who's looking for a Cadillac, hit us up. But once this Cadillac sells, I'm sure we'll probably be looking back at Mercedes again, as we always do. And that 300 coupe someday is going to be mine as well as some other cars. Maybe pick up something like a Riata or a little SLK or my 300 coupe. I know you guys think I'm crazy, but I love that 300 coupe probably even more than the SL, and it was not nearly as nice, but I just love that thing. So, and I think you guys did too, because you guys watched the heck out of that video. I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you guys are excited to see what happens with this Cougar and what else we got coming up. I've got more cars that I'll be featuring from friends and contacts and fellow club members and the coachmen. So you guys stay tuned for that. And until then, like, subscribe, click the bell so you're notified, Check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, and even on TikTok. We have a TikTok, who knew? And other than that, I'll see you on the next one.